Good morning. Great to see everyone as you're coming in. Already 31, 32 participants. I'd love to see who's joining. So the chat is open. Please drop in. Let us know where you're joining from. I myself am hosting from Washington State up in beautiful Bellingham, Washington, practically the Canadian border. And I am joined today with fellow product manager Zach and also co-founder and CEO of GroundControl, Mehul. And we are spanned across a couple different states today. So great to see everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and also get us recording. Perfect. Great to see everyone. Oh my gosh. Chats are rolling in. Yeah, as you're coming in, let us know where you're coming from. Great to see everyone. Phoenix, Arizona, Mesa. Great to see. We've got from Alaska, LA. Oh my gosh, all over the place. Chicago, Toronto, Ontario, Philly, Wisconsin, South Dakota. Oh my gosh. No shortage of states represented on this webinar today. It's so great to see so many familiar faces and names. Great to see everybody. It's going to be a jam-packed webinar, so I won't delay too much. We're going to dive in. Let me go ahead and share my screen and get us kicked off. Oh my gosh, so excited. All right, well, I'm going to get us started as others roll in. Great to see everybody. My name is Lacey. I am a product manager here at ProShop ERP, and I am excited to bring the Q1 Product Roundup webinar today. As I mentioned as we were starting off, I am joined today by fellow product manager Zach, and we also have co-founder and CEO of GroundControl, Mehul. Excited to dive in today, so I won't even delay us any further. Let's dive in. Of course, before we get started, some general housekeeping. Quick couple notes, this session is being recorded. We will send out a link to the recording to all registered participants post the webinar. If you have questions as you go, we have a Q&A box. We welcome questions, drop them in. We will try to answer a few as we go, and definitely as many as we can as we wrap up at the end. And the chat is open as well. So seeing a ton of seasoned pros in the chat, dropping where you're coming from. Feel free to share reactions, engage there as well. Love to see the community come in. We have a packed agenda. Q1 brought several different features to ProShop. We're going to touch on just a couple. There were quite a few more. And the highlights today are going to be around multi-currency expansion, serial number search and barcode, CMM importing, some training proficiency enhancements, and then a great special guest with GroundControl, our inspection data module powered by GroundControl. If we have time, we'll also do a bit of a sneak peek into Q2's features. We've got a couple highlights there. But in order to get to that, we've got to get started. So I'm going to dive right in. Again, Lacey, nice to meet you all if I haven't met you previously. But let's dive into the good stuff. So Q1 brought a expansion into the multi-currency features in ProShop. Last year, we released multi-currency on the sales side of ProShop, and Q1 into 2026 rounded that out into the vending side. So we have expanded into vendor POs, bills. We have some small features into the cost breakdown and estimating, and then we've added some flexibility into the entry of currencies and pricing fields in all of these modules. So we'll take a look at those features, a demo a bit. Really, these are geared towards our clients that do business globally and are need to manage exchange rates, currencies in ProShop. So let's dive in and demo a bit of that. If you haven't seen these features as they stand today, in the previous releases, we introduced the exchange rate management table. So this is found in system settings. This is where you can introduce currencies as well as the corresponding exchange rates associated with that currency. To control the entire feature set, we have a feature toggle. And in this latest release of features, we listen to our clients who want a bit more control around the access levels for editing things like exchange rates and entering currencies. So we have introduced in our user access page an additional access level for allowing, just as I said, the editing exchange rates on things like invoices and bills, as well as updating that system exchange rate. So if you want your users to be able to perform those functions, you'll want to give them that additional access level. On the exchange rate management page, you will see the users with that permission. There'll be a long list there for those that you've given that access level to. So you've got controls to make sure that everyone that you intended to have that permission has it. I'll briefly go over the exchange rate management table if you aren't familiar with it. You set your master currency in our finance tab. And then from there, you can also set the frequency in which you want your exchange rates to be updated. That can be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, etc. The exchange rate management will show you your current exchange rate period. So that you've got that control. We've also introduced a system message to the users that are set with that extra access level. So that system message will go out once the exchange rate period has been hit, and it'll let the users know that you need to update that exchange rate. I think I've got an example of that here. So in your system messages, you'll see the system automated message. It'll give you a notification of the currencies that have expired, the exchange rates that have expired for those currencies. If we go into that particular message, what we'll see also is a link to that exchange rate management page. So it'll take you right back to what we were just looking at so that you can update accordingly if they've got updated due dates. In addition, you can add currencies. We have a list of currencies that we support, any and all. Add that currency and the corresponding exchange rate. Then while I'm here, I'll also show a little bit of the historic exchange rate. So we do get feedback that from an auditing standpoint, especially for accountants, they do want to take a look at what records were created with what exchange rates. We do track that here in the exchange rate management field. We track that by the type of record. So quotes, invoices, customer POs. If I run that query, you'll get a list of the records that use that particular exchange rate and the currency, and then can deep dive further into that as needed. So full traceability on that historical use of exchange rates. Introduced in the newest release, let me move my bar there. We also have, as I said, expanded into vendors, the vending side, supplier side of Multicurrency. With that, on the contact level, you can set your payment currencies. The master currency for this environment is US dollars. So payment currency for this particular vendor is CAD. What that's going to do is flow down to your vendor purchase order. So we have two fields here, the vendor currency and the exchange rate. And new in this release, we have for all of the records that facilitate exchange rates and multiple currencies, we've introduced flexibility into how you can enter your price. So most likely for vendors, they're going to provide you pricing in their currency. So we've got the flexibility to entering into CAD, even though my master currency is USD, but I can toggle between those two. I will show here, I've got this in USD now since I clicked on that, but I can toggle back and forth accordingly. So just depends which method I want to set that price. It'll open up in editing mode and in that currency. In addition, you will see below all of the cost fields, the converted currencies. So whichever one I'm in this case, I'm in the vendor's currency. So I'm seeing grayed out my master currency. If I was reverse, that would show reverse. So you do get a preview of what that exchanged or calculated value is with the exchange rate set. The exchange rate on that particular field is going to pull from the exchange rate on the day that the record is created from that exchange rate management field in system config. In addition, at the bill and invoicing level, we have also updated the flexibility to update the exchange rate from the default. So this will flow down from the vendor PO. If you created this bill from scratch, it again would take the snapshot of the exchange rate from the system config table. However, we recognize that there's 2 points in which the exchange rate may need to get updated to make sure that your bills and your invoices are as accurate as the date that you actually make payment or receive payment. So either on the AR or the AP side. When you go to push your invoice or your bill into QuickBooks Sage, your accounting package, in that moment of time, the exchange rate is set. That is, again, the day that you've made payment or that you have received payment. If you want to, we have the flexibility to come back into ProShop, update that exchange rate to the exact rate that you used in QuickBooks in Sage or Xero into the accounting package. So I can update that as needed and then save that in the record so that that's up to date. Typically in that workflow, what we're seeing is that you'd also be updating your status. So moving that from pending to paid. You'll also see here an indication anytime that you change the exchange rate from the default that there was on the record, you'll see this kind of red icon and then a tooltip that goes with that that's just telling you that you've manually updated that exchange rate from the original. So originally, and it will give you that original exchange rate that the record was created from. That is the majority of the features that we have. I'll take you one quick review to the estimates as well. Here we have a cost breakdown. This is just a very light update, but if you do have a currency that's alternate from your master currency, we will show the converted values before you go and create a quote, so you can see what that's going to convert to in the customer's currency. And with that, that's going to cover most of the features in the multi-currency enhancements that we released in this latest grouping of features in that space. Just going to take a look briefly at the chat, see if we have any questions. I'm not seeing much coming in, so I'm going to keep going into our next set of features. And that is around our serialization and serial number searches. That's a mouthful for first thing in the morning. So we've received quite a bit of feedback from clients that are in the high traceability spaces. This is aerospace, defense, medical in some cases where serialization is really required. What we received in feedback is that querying serial numbers sometimes resulted in quite a few serial numbers kind of in batches in the advanced search that we were seeing not a one-for-one search result the way that clients would expect. So we really dove into the advanced search and querying in serialization where we could enhance both just the common functionality in advanced search, but then take that one step further. How do we bring serial number searching to the forefront? This is really pertinent for when you get a call from a customer who's looking at a part that's discrepant. They're looking at the serial number outside of just the part number. Your order entry or your project managers or your front lines that are taking those calls from customers want to be able to quickly dive in and get additional information around that particular serial number, that particular part. And we want to make that as fast and as seamless as possible. So what we've done, and I'll dive in here, is introduced a serial number search into the relevant modules that would be searching on serial numbers. One of those is nonconformances. So again, if I'm looking up a nonconformance or I've got a serial number, which I'll take this one and kind of pull this back up in a module. So let's take a look at the home page here. On the left-hand side, we've got under our quick searches, a new serial number search. So I can quickly search by serial numbers directly into these modules. I'll do the same in the work order module in a second. If I drop that in, what I'm going to get is a really focused query result. What it's going to focus in on is the work order, the NCR that is associated to that serial number, and then I can start diving in further from there. If I look at this from the work order module, Same exact search. So I enable this feature in system settings, and I will see the serial number search then in all of these corresponding modules. I can dive into searching on that serial number, and what results is the work order associated to it. Now, imagine that I also have a different data point. So let's say that I've got my work order, but I want to see the set of serial numbers that's associated with that. I can also search on a couple other key fields. So things like notes, work order in, work order out. So again, these are the postings into your serial number tables and your inventory tables. But if I want to search just on the work order and then find the associated serial numbers, I can do that. Again, quickly getting into the hands of those that need to find the next level of information associated either to a part number, a work order, serial number, and getting them full context into that so that they can deep dive further. You'll see this in, as I mentioned, not only just the work order, but also parts, NCRs, and COTS modules. In addition, and I kind of sneak peeked it in there, you'll also see that in the serial number tables, we've introduced a barcode. We did receive feedback that barcodes scanning gets used in multiple different areas and different use cases across our customer base. And it'd be really nice to not have to key in the serial number onto other areas of the software or software outside of ProShop. So what we've done is a first pass at this. I think we have a lot of opportunity going forward to incorporate barcodes and serial numbers in other places in ProShop. But the very first phase, as we were in this phase, was just to introduce that barcode into that table. So if you want to scan off of that for any of your workflows, you can. With that, I'm going to move into our next space and pass off to Zach, who's going to take us through a couple of the other features that launched in Q1.
Hi, Lacey. Thanks. And hello, everyone. My name is Zach Clark. I'm a product manager here at ProShop, and I'm going to walk you through a couple of the features that we released earlier this year. The first feature that we'll dive into is CMM importing. Lacey, can you go ahead to the next slide? Awesome, thanks. So we have introduced the ability to upload multiple inspection results into the first article inspection and the in-process check. I'm going to walk through an example here with the first article inspection. So there's not a limit to the quantity of dimensions we can get in. It's using a CSV so that we have a wide range of integration support, where if you have a CMM machine that you're able to export a CSV, you should be able to import that into ProShop. So it's not specific to the machine type that you have. The information that we need primarily out of your report is a dimension tag number that matches a dim tag number in ProShop, and then the actual results that you got for that dimension tag. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And walk through an example on a work order. So from a work order that already has an inspection plan established, we'll go into the operation that has the inspection plan, into the first article. And in the first article, as well as in the in-process check, you'll have an icon for the inspection that you're targeting. So in this case, this is the operator check, which has been named here. I'll click on the icon, and we begin a step-by-step workflow that we walk you through. So you can drag and drop your CSV file or choose a file from your file explorer. From there, we can proceed and begin to prepare the file for the mapping. So if your file has column headers in it, as mine does, where we've got the dim tag and the results, all you need to do is select which columns to import. So this is associating the requirements for the import with the information from the sheet. We also have the ability to do some amending here if you needed to. So if you did not have file headers or column headers, you could specify that. And ProShop will add in a column ID so that you can more easily find which column you plan to import in. I'm going to go ahead and retoggle that on just for simplicity. I've got also the ability to select which row my results begin on. So if I had multiple rows of uh, blank information or header information I didn't want to include in the import, I could go ahead and specify that here. In this case, it's targeting row 2, which is the row that I want to begin on. So in the select which columns to import, I'll go ahead and select the dim tag. And for the operator check, I'm going to say the results. If you're using our equipment used function, you can also specify the ID of your equipment at this time. So in this case, I've got a CMM entered into the equipment module in ProShop that's configured for the equipment used. I'll select that piece of equipment here, which will then flow to the first article. So you have visibility into which piece of equipment you used for this specific check. I'll go ahead and click next. So we're now in step 3, where we're reviewing the file prior to the import. If there's any errors at this point, we will notify you. And you do have the ability to do edits in the table here. So I'll go ahead and create an error where we've got 2 dimensions that have the same dim tag. This will get flagged as an importing error, and it won't import that dimension. If I wanted to fix that, I could come in and say, okay, this is actually dim tag number 1, and it then immediately updates to notify you that this is ready to import. Once you've reviewed all of the information and you're ready to import, you do have an option to overwrite existing or amend. It defaults to amending. So in my example, I don't have any results I'm amending at this time. But if I did, I could import, and it would only import into values that did not yet have inspection results recorded. So now I'm ready to import. I'll go ahead and hit import. We get a little bit of a visual cue that it's importing, and then the results are in. So at this point, we've got all of our inspection results in ProShop. We get the equipment used that I specified in step 2 there, as well as my user ID. And you still get the time date stamps that you would get if you were recording these dimensions manually.
That one question we got from the Q&A from Justin Quinn is, can we import to the IPC as well when we're checking many parts?
Yep. So I don't have an example of that queued up, but if we did go into add inspection here, and I haven't certified this to run or marked off the first article complete yet, so I'm getting my notifications there. But in the IPC, we also have the ability to launch the import inspection results, and it would be the same steps that we just worked through there, and then they would import in for that IPC. So great question, thanks.
And Gayleen asked, can you still import the inspection data with multiple equipment used?
No, not at this time. Yep. So you could amend that after the fact, but as for right now, the idea is that you've gathered the results from one specific piece of equipment, and you'd be importing with the results for that piece of equipment. So you could potentially do 2 imports if you had 2 machines or multiple pieces of equipment, but at this time, the import is limited to selecting one piece of equipment.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah. Is that it for questions on
I
that?
think that's it that's come in so far. Thanks, Justin and Gayleen. Appreciate it.
Awesome. With that, I'm going to move into the next item here in the deck, which is our training proficiency enhancements. So another feature we launched earlier this year is some upgraded functionality to our training proficiency. We now have the ability to alert when a user's training has expired or their training is going to expire within a given period of time. We can send out a message to folks who are trainers that's configurable in the user access. And then we also provide a history for each of those users' trainings proficiencies. And within that history, you also get the little certificate record as well if you needed reference back to that. So I'll get out of, oops, sorry, here. I'm going to get back into ProShop and walk through what that looks like in the application. So if you're in the training module, you'll notice that we've got two new quick links up at the top. The first being expired user proficiency and the second being upcoming. Expired user proficiency will show you every training record in ProShop for which at least one user has a, uh, a proficiency that has expired. And I'll talk about how you configure that and what that looks like. So in this training record, we've got 3 users here whose training has just recently expired on the 11th. To establish the period of time in which a training is valid for, we'll use the user proficiency validity. I'll go into edit here to see how that's set up. So you can set this to be an integer here, and then you can select either a period of time that is in days, weeks, or years. And if you leave this blank, it would never expire. So it's sort of an opt-in here if you want this training to expire. So I'll leave this at 1 year. I'm going to talk about how this impacts training access control, and then also how to configure getting notifications on when a training is going to expire so that you have time to react to that upcoming expiration. So I'm going to go over to another training record here that has training access control configured for it. In the training module, you have the ability to set a default for your org, and then also you have the ability to override that default on a per record basis. So in the trainings settings, I'll go in and there is on user proficiency expiration, revoke users training access control read write access as default. In this site, I've configured that to no. So every training would default to no. If I wanted every training to default to yes, I could select yes here, and that would update this use mode default currently no, would say currently yes. Now, what does this mean? This means if you have a training record that's linked to an attribute in ProShop as being training access controlled, you have the ability to say, this user who used to be trained on this no longer can do this training access control action until their training expiration is renewed. So if you have a very important training and a very important attribute that you don't want people configuring once their training has expired, you have the ability to control that through here. Once a user is considered expired, you can go in and edit that record. We'll give you the queue as to what their last training proficiency was, and you can go ahead and reselect that, which will say that they're retrained. So by setting Jason's to a 2 here, his goes green, James remains expired, and the upcoming expirations remain upcoming. Now, for configuring the period of time that the expiring notification appears, we'll go back into the training settings. And there's a default number of days user proficiency pre-expiration warning. If blank, it will be disabled. For this site, I've got it set to 30. That means 30 days within the user proficiency expiration. Anywhere in the app that we have a training record sort of showing up, we'll show that it's coming up as expiring. And then we'll also have in the training module, in the upcoming expirations, a list of those users and those training records where their training is going to expire in that 30-day window. Last thing I think I'll touch on here is anywhere that a user's training shows up for visibility. So be that in their user record or in the company positions page, we've gone ahead and shown the expired user proficiency and the actual training that's expired, and also removed the fully trained capability. So this user would be considered 100% trained if they had their user proficiency reset. So again, if I go back in here, I can go to that training and then I can set the proficiency to whatever it is. Maybe I want to set it back to 1. I confirm that that's going to impact this user's training and they're going to be considered trained again. I save, and then they'll go back to green and it'll reset that time period. So the next time it'll expire will be in 2027. And we did just add this ability to see a history of all the changes that were made. So as your users progress through and maybe go from a 1 to a 2 to a 3, you can kind of keep track of that, and then also print any of the record certificates at any period of time with that time date stamp.
Zach,
And with that,
I know
I can
we're a
take some
little,
questions. Yeah.
I know we're a little close on time, but we've got a couple questions. One for this, and then 2 for the CMM import. For this feature, can a group of users be notified when user expiration is approaching and or expired?
Yeah, so individuals whose trainings are expiring should get a system message. And then there's a user access in the messages section for send user proficiency expiration message when trainings for which this user is the trainer expire. So that means in this case where Paul Van Meter is set as the trainer, he should get a system message saying that James Cook has expired or Brian Anderson's expiring, so that getting that notification in a system message.
Mike, I see your note on great to have similar features for supplier evaluations, taking that note for sure on the supply chain side. Going back to CMM import, I've got a couple questions. If we've got a little bit of time, Zach, maybe a minute or so on this.
Yep.
Can you upload multiple parts data at the same time for 100% inspection requirements, i.e. do all of the measurements for all parts, then export the CSV data, then import to show all the checks performed? Or is it limited to one part check at a time?
It is inspection specific. So there is, if you look at the first article, we have the 3 different inspections. And then as you move into the in-process checks, you can have a lot of different checks. This tool is only targeting one inspection result at a time. So the idea is you're doing it in process, importing the results to that specific check. But yeah, we don't have the capability at this time to specify, say if you had 5 in-process checks, I want to import these 5, and these are the 5 results for those 5. So it is a one-to-one today. Yep.
Okay. And then Rob asked, how does the tool recognize multiple results? I don't know if that's too vague of a question. Would it be dim tag specific?
I'm not sure I am following that one, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I'll have Rob maybe
yeah, we can follow up
pop
maybe
back
after the
into
chat.
Q&A. Yeah, totally. If we've got some time, expand on that one. So perfect. Well, with that, thank you, Zach. That was awesome. Really exciting to see those. I'm going to jump in and introduce our next co-host. Excited to have Mehul join us from GroundControl, co-founder and CEO. I'm going to, no further delay, pass off to you to talk about GroundControl and partnership with ProShop.
Thanks, Lacey.
Of course.
Hey, everyone. It's great to meet you all. As Lacey said, I am Mehul. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of GroundControl. And just to give a quick 30 seconds of background, I do recognize some familiar faces, but there's also lots of names I don't recognize. GroundControl, really, our vision is extremely simple. We want to build mission-critical software for regulated manufacturing. And we think that fits really well with ProShop's, all the folks who use ProShop, right? We want to build software that takes manual workflows that are critical to the business and automates them with software, with AI, with next-gen technology. And the first one that we actually went after was quality inspections. So for more background, I spent the last decade working at my family business, which is in regulated manufacturing. And one of our biggest pain points, which I'm sure a lot of you face, is in order to get inspection data and complete FAIs and complete in-process checks, all the things we know are healthy for a good quality process, you have to do the prerequisite work of generating your balloon drawing, doing your dim tagging, generating an inspection plan. And we found that folks were doing that manually. They were using legacy softwares. And so we built what we believe is a next-gen solution to automate that entire process. Over the last year and a half since we started this, we're now in over 175 facilities around the country. And what we found was the more we went to market, the more we started to encounter ProShop customers. And what we heard from ProShop customers is, look, ProShop, as we all know, is a market-leading ERP, and they have a fully integrated QMS. So folks would tell us, hey, look, we can already capture inspection data, and now there's even new features like Zach just showed. We can capture our CMM data, get everything ready, prepared for an FAI. However, the bottleneck is now shifted left to actually generating the inspection plan and the balloon drawing, which is necessary to be accurate to actually do good inspections and do accurate inspections. And so what we heard was, they're doing these manually. They're trying to do a CSV import into ProShop, which may work sometimes and may have manual adjustments after. And they're really praying that there's no human input error. Because as we all know, if you have a single typo in an FAI, a customer can reject it. It can ding your supplier scorecard. I mean, it's absolutely critical to get this done well. And so about a few months ago, I met with Paul Van Meter, who I'm sure all of you know, at a conference. It was actually a small conference in Indianapolis. And we started talking and we realized there's actually a really interesting synergy here where ProShop has already solved the QMS aspect and the inspection aspect. But what it's missing and where we could fill the gap is an actual integrated ballooning solution that can create the data, create the inspection plan, and then automatically push it into ProShop. So you don't have to worry about duplicate data entry. You don't have to worry about manual work on the front end, and you can, have a full quality process throughout. If you can go to the next slide, Lacey. So to kind of reiterate what I'm saying, right? As we all know, quality is mission critical. It's not, where parts get stopped from shipping. It really is mission critical. And actually, it's an enabler to get parts out the door faster that are high quality that your customers will appreciate. And part of that is automation. Actually, if you can go back one. And so we're really, really excited to announce the inspection data module directly in ProShop powered by GroundControl. So this is an exclusive partnership and it's really exciting. It's going to be a way to essentially feel like you're ballooning within ProShop, getting all of your data and setting you up for success. Next slide, please. So, I mean, just to kind of reiterate the pain point, what we've heard, most shops are still doing FAIs the hard way, right? They're spending hours ballooning prints either by hand or with legacy software. They're going one dimension after another. Every time there's a new revision, they have to rebubble the print. And then most importantly, they have to pray that there's no typos, whether they're using software or typing into Excel, right? What that means is you are not getting paid because parts are being delayed due to quality paperwork. This is something we've heard time and time again. And for manufacturing, it's very important that the earlier you can invoice, the better your business is going to be. Because not only does it keep customers happy, but it allows you to have the cash flow necessary for CapEx investments, for payroll, to build a great team and a great culture. And then the bigger thing is when you do have a different system, whether manual or legacy software, you have to reconcile multiple systems. So you're living with your balloon drawings in one system, you have CSV exports for different revisions flying around your file system, you're manually entering data, and it just feels like a disconnected set of systems, which doesn't need to happen in 2026. And so if you can go to the next slide, please. This is really where the inspection data module comes into play. So essentially the way it works is you will launch GroundControl directly from ProShop. So you don't have to log into a separate system. and your drawing will automatically be placed in there, tied into the ProShop part number that you're working on. And I'll show a demo video at the end of this if anyone has questions. After that, our AI will balloon the print for you. Now, that being said, it is human in the loop, so the human is truly in control, but we will dramatically streamline the process of ballooning your prints. After that, you literally just click a single button and the data is going to sync back into ProShop. So no more data entry, no more CSV exports and imports, just one click. And then from there, you have all of your data in part check master in ProShop. And then you can do the CMM import that Zach talked about. You can enter your in-process data. You can have a truly paperless system because you have this foundation from GroundControl. Next slide, please. So, just to kind of dig into the features a little bit more and why we think it's really exciting. The biggest kind of advantages of our platform can be boiled down into these four cards. Number one, our ballooning is very proactive. So something you may have heard yourselves or from your quality team is that, we have to balloon one by one, or if we do try to do auto ballooning, it auto balloons everything. And we have to go back and fix all the dimensions that are wrong. And it just takes more time. We wish we did it ourselves, right? You never want to hear people wish to do it the manual way. Our AI is meant to be very much human in the loop. So we will give you suggestions, but ultimately you are in control. And our goal is to enable you to go faster while still maintaining high accuracy. Number two, as we said, is the one-click sync to ProShop. Eliminate data entry, save time there, forget any chance of fat fingering, and get the data into ProShop. And then the beauty is, you always have the current drawing in ProShop, so you're not dealing with PDFs and balloon drawings and all these systems. It all stays within ProShop as your system of record. And GroundControl is really just meant to facilitate the ballooning and the inspection plan. We can go to the next slide, please. And so, why should I care, right? As a shop owner, as a quality manager, why should I care about yet another software? For the quality team, really the biggest thing is we want to give you time to focus on more things than just administrative paperwork, right? Of course, ballooning is important, as I've been saying this whole time, but at the end of the day, it is a paperwork task. And the more we can automate it, the more time your QEs and inspectors have to focus on the parts that are going to get shipped and put onto rockets or planes or fighter jets. And from what we've seen, you're going to be at least 75% faster if you're doing the FAIs manually. And happy to share other stats depending on whatever system you're using today. Now, for the owners and for the GMs and for the VPs of operations, really what you're going to see is parts are going to ship on time, and quality is never going to be the reason why parts don't ship on time, right? As you all know, if you have 5, 10, 20, 50 FAIs a month, and you're shipping late and invoicing late, or even worse, you get rejections, which lead to hidden costs. That's going to compress your cash cycle. And so our goal is to make sure that never happens. I do see a question from Daniel. Can Mehul explain how his product is different from high QA, or is it different? Great question, Daniel. I would say in the last several months, we've had at least quite a few companies switch over from high QA to GroundControl. I will say, I don't want to say that they're a bad product by any means. We've just found ways to differentiate ourselves. And I can give it to you in three separate things. Number one, we are fully in the government cloud and compliant to handle ITAR and CUI data. And what that means is that's what allows us to do the API integration with ProShop, where we can click once and have the data sync automatically instead of a CSV import and export. Number two is our engine for recognizing characteristics on drawings is significantly more accurate than high QA and every other product on the market. Especially when you see hand-drawn prints with different fonts, coffee stains from the 60s, we are able to accurately read those significantly more of the time than high QA. And number three is intuitiveness. We want this to be a software that anyone can pick up within 30 minutes and feel like an expert on. And we do have several folks in the chat who do use our software, like Matt at American Precision Work, who I'm glad to say is a happy user and certainly feel free to talk to other folks about their experience with the intuitiveness and the ease of use and the customer support of ground control. And then number three is just that we move fast, right? We started this company less than a year and a half ago, and we are going to continue to add more and more features, more and more automation, to the point where, what you see today may not even be, 20% of what might be possible in 6 months from now. So those are just a few of the reasons. Another question I see is, oh, you're welcome, Daniel. Derek saying, how does it handle a drawing that has multiple part numbers? Example, an assembly drawing. So essentially, we are able to tie FAIs together if they are part of the same assembly. Now, in terms of the ProShop integration, I guess that would probably be a question maybe Zach can answer, or Derek, you can answer, of how do you handle the assembly in ProShop? Is it multiple part numbers all
Yeah,
tied to
so
a master?
Derek, this would it would be still the same process on the ProShop side. So if you had an assembly, you would have distinct part records within ProShop, and then for those distinct part records, you would launch into GroundControl. And I believe that if you've already bubbled the drawing, you'd have reference to that drawing. Is that correct, Mehul?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to repeat yourself on the GroundControl side if you had one drawing that had all of your distinct assemblies in it. And then if you had multiple drawings, it would just be the same process. So you would have the part record in ProShop, launch into GroundControl, balloon the drawing, and push it back into the part record in ProShop.
And one thing
Perfect.
I might
Thank you.
recommend is just looking at the time that we actually get into the demo, because I know I'm
Yes.
jazzed to see it. So I want to make sure we don't run out of time for that.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Do
Let
you
me
want me to
share my
pass off to
screen.
you? Yeah, perfect.
Yes, please. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen, Lacey,
Yep.
Zach?
Yep.
Perfect. So what you're going to see here, this is ProShop, right? I am in a part number, and I am in the part check master, which we can see is empty today. And normally, like I said, what's happening there is quality teams are trying to upload and finagle CSVs, or they're manually typing all the inspection characteristics into here. What you're now going to see is a new button in this part number dropdown, which says Launch Auto Balloon. And when you click on that, it's going to automatically launch GroundControl, connect it, load the customers, and try to let you create a new inspection plan in GroundControl for the same customer. So I'm going to continue that. It's going to redirect me into a new report. I'm going to go to the drawing area and upload a drawing. So what we see here, just to be clear, this is a live, like this is a real video of our production application. This is not like a demo mock. And what you see here is, as soon as the drawing is uploaded, the first thing we're going to do is go to the title block and automatically pull out the tolerances, right? Because as everyone knows, tolerances are critical to understanding if inspections are good or bad. And so with GroundControl, all you have to do is grab the title block area, and our AI is going to live parse it in front of you. And in just seconds, it's going to pull out all of the part information and all of the tolerance information. And so what we can see is in less than 10 seconds, all of my tolerance information is here by precision, for the linear dimensions, and for the angular dimensions. And so I can simply apply those, and now my prep is ready. The next thing I do is click on the auto balloon button. And so what you can see here is this is giving you suggestions of what we think are balloons. Now, I'll be very candid with everyone. I think you should all know this. No auto balloon is perfect, including ours. And so we don't say we're going to auto balloon and you have to go fix it. We choose to be proactive. So we give you suggestions, and you can choose what you want and don't want. So as an example, we can see it's pretty accurate. However, there are two dimensions that are not real dimensions. So what I can do here is click on them and delete them as suggestions. Now that I've done that prep, I can simply grab the area I want. You can see the suggested bubble numbers, and I can do my configuration. So do I want it clockwise? Do I want to start from the bottom middle? Do I want it counterclockwise? It's really up to you and what your customers care to see. Once that's done, I can simply click accept, and that's going to balloon everything just like that in seconds. And it's going to start pulling out all the information and building my inspection plan. And so after it processes, I'm going to open the table at the bottom so you can see the inspection plan that's been built. And so here we can see there are my dimensions, my characteristic numbers, my tolerances, everything is in place. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is add my op numbers. For the sake of this example, I put everything as op 10, although obviously that's not going to be the case. And from there, my inspection plan is done for this set of dimensions in less than 30 seconds. Now I can pull that same ProShop part number that we launched this from. I can title what I want to save my completed bubble drawing as, and I can review how the data is going to push directly into ProShop. So the beauty here again is we are being proactive and showing you how we're splitting up the requirements into ProShop spec 1, 2, and 3. Things like diameter, things like GD&T, things like datums, multiple places is all parsed automatically for you. I click sync data. It's going to sync it into ProShop, and now I'm going to go back into ProShop to show you when I refresh the page, all of my data is automatically in ProShop. It really feels like magic, right? You're not having to do any extra work. You just refresh your page, and all of a sudden you've got an inspection plan ready to go actually, build your parts and satisfy your customers. Yeah, so that's a quick demo.
Couple questions that came in.
Yes.
Do you support AQLs? And what about multiple part inspections such as AQL levels? I think two birds, one stone with those two questions.
So in general, today we do in some senses if you're going to use GroundControl. However, for the sake of this ProShop integration, really our goal is to just build the inspection plan. We do have a field where you can add AQLs, but that wouldn't be pushed into ProShop today. But that's something we could certainly consider for the future.
And then can you talk a little bit about your CMMC support?
Yes, absolutely. So we, of course, take CMMC extremely seriously. As a software company similar to ProShop, our equivalent of CMMC is FedRAMP moderate equivalency. And we're excited to say our audit has been scheduled for May 4th. So about 2 weeks from now, and we are, as a lot of you probably are doing your CMMC audits around the similar time frame. It is very intense, but once we pass that audit, we will be fully compliant for any CMMC flow downs. And for the flow downs today that are DFARS, we have our NIST 800 certification, which lets us work with ITAR and CUI data. So we have plans for today and the future, and I'm happy to share an overview of our cybersecurity policy with anyone who's interested.
Fantastic. Okay, the questions are rolling in, so I'm going to try to rapid fire through. Can you add multiple operations for the same dim tag?
Yes, I think you can. I will double check, but I'm pretty sure you can.
Okay. And then if you want to split the manufacturing into two parts, how do we select the separate ops? Interesting. Okay.
I want to split the manufacturing into two parts. How do we select? I'm not sure I quite understand that, but happy to discuss it offline. Absolutely, okay. and do a deeper demo.
Okay. And then last but not least, when is this available?
Yeah, that's the exciting part. It is available now, as of today. We've already had a few beta customers online, and so please, I'll go to the next slide, which is perfect timing. If you're interested in learning more and seeing a demo and learning about how this might fit your needs, please book a call with Jalen, the key account manager at ProShop. You can also book a meeting with me personally. I'm happy to walk you through from my perspective. But Jalen and myself will take care of you guys. We'll show you how it makes sense for your shop and talk through pricing and any other questions. Can a quality approval stamp be added to the drawing? Yes, actually, Kyle, we do have a full markup module in our software where you can add stamps and flatten them into the PDF for releasing quality approval, anything like that. That is available, yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave questions there because we do have a little bit towards the end. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about this partnership. I'm going to take over screen sharing and just back to the last of the webinar. As promised, I would be amiss if I didn't give the crowds what they want as well, which is a little Q2 sneak peek. So I can't show everything. There's way too much to pack into the last 5 minutes of a webinar, but I wanted to give a little bit of a couple things that are coming your way. So in this next release, we will have custom labels for vendor POs. So we've listened to quite a bit of feedback from our customers. you have been asking for a while to be able to build material labels for incoming materials, outgoing, outside processing box labels, all in this purchasing workflow. And so we are happy to be launching our custom label designer in and for the vendor PO module to start. Let me go ahead and see if I can preview this. We're out of a dev environment as we speak, so last of it getting QA'd and finalized. What this will look like is a label templates library. This is where you will house your labels that you've built. You can create templates here, either by line item or by the order summary. So the order summary will take header level attributes and apply those to a box label or any label type that you want. The line level types of labels will do just that, print labels per line item. What the label builder and designer allows you to do is customize what you want on a specific label, the size of your label. So do you want a barcode? Do you want specific data fields to populate? And when that gets to the vendor PO level, it will populate with the relevant data either by line level or the header information. Lots to be able to configure here. You'll get a preview, you can save those. And then when you get to that vendor PO, what you'll see there is a button on the bottom of the record. What that allows you to do is print labels either by specific lines. So I can print just line 2, select a template. So maybe I want the QR code PO line level and print that. Or I can also print labels for the entire order. So again, this is helpful if I'm sending out material, let's say on an outside processing, and I want something like a box label for the outside of that package. I can pull in that template. I can also select in either one of those how many labels I want to print. So exciting to see that available in the next release. And then in this quarter, we are also redesigning our printed forms. We've got a bit of a preview here on the right-hand side to kind of show where we're headed in our forms. We've listened to you for quite a while. You have wanted a more modern, a more streamlined look in the forms that are going out to your customers and to your vendors. We have spent some time with our design teams to redesign, really leverage more of the vertical space on our forms instead of kind of the horizontal layouts that we've had today, large tables of data printed, and instead nesting that so that we can really leverage the space per line item. This will span from quotes to vendor POs, customer confirmation or customer PO confirmations to invoices, bills, anything that along those lines, any of the items that have line item that is printing. So excited to get that out in Q2. And those are my 2 sneak peeks for today. We've got a few Q&A, and I think most of them are getting answered. Only one other question for the ground control. Can a quality approval stamp be added to the drawing? Quick question on that side.
Yes, it can.
Okay, great. Make sure we caught those. For those that are already customers with us, and hopefully that's the majority today, so you're getting a real deep dive into the features coming your way and that have already been available in Q1. We always want to remind you of the resources available to you. We have both ProShop support, hopefully using our in-app support alley for answering any topics as new features get released. We are feeding all of that context into alley so that resource can help answer your questions, troubleshoot for you, and provide your entire team with answers at their fingertips. And then also release notes. So please, when we take time to make sure that there's in-app release guides, the day that you get that release that shows up on your production homepage, this will give you the highlights of what's in a particular release, announcements there. Dive into those release notes. There's always a link at the bottom of that guide that'll direct you straight in there. Not only just the feature announcements, but we also highlight any of the bug fixes or performance improvements that we have. So really valuable links to you as we continue to release on a monthly basis. I'd be amiss if I didn't highlight our upcoming events. So if you haven't already, please sign up for our next webinar, which is April 22nd, around building your SSP without losing your mind. A hard task for sure. We want to be here to support you. So I'll leave this up for a quick second. You grab that QR code, register today. We'd love to see you there. And on behalf of all of us, reach out on LinkedIn. We're here to connect with you. All of our LinkedIn profiles are here. We love to build our networks. We love to connect with you. For our current customers, also we connect in the forum. So start conversations there. We're listening to your feedback actively. We review that actively in the forum. This is very valuable to us. So multiple ways for you to connect with the product teams and with our partnerships. So with that, I think we might have ended right on time, which is a first for me as I'm quite the talker. But I want to thank again Mehul for joining us with GroundControl, for all of you for tuning in for an hour. Hopefully this was a great hour for you to be able to ask questions, see what's in the release, and we'll be doing this on a quarterly basis. So we're really excited to see you next quarter. Thank you all for a great session. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.